It will be a non-standard story in which zombies appeared, rushing at all people in a row. A middle-aged man in a business suit walks down a city street, coughs and falls to his knees, coughing up blood. Passers-by watch this scene with bewilderment. A young couple approaches a kneeling man. The woman asks if he's okay, and the guy tries to convince her to pass by. The middle-aged man raises his distorted face, eyes wide apart, covered in bruises and swollen veins. He pounces on a passerby guy and bites into his neck, causing blood to spray around. On the bloodied screen of the phone lying on the asphalt, you can see an emergency message from the media, in which the Central Headquarters for Security and Disaster Management warns that a new epidemic of distraught people is spreading rapidly in the city and urges to refrain from going out and contacting other people. One of the panicked people running away from a huge crowd of zombies steps on the phone, smashing my screen as well. A giant army of zombies is chasing fleeing people with backpacks through the ruined streets of the city. People everywhere were fleeing to the government-built shelter behind the huge wall in the middle of Busan. As people of different ages and genders approach the wall, bullet shots hit the zombies chasing them, tearing their heads into bloody pieces. In the middle of the city stands a huge wall made up of cargo containers with observation towers on top, surrounded by construction cranes. This wall was called the Second Blockade. However, there was a problem. The night city shines in the night. All people cannot be placed behind a wall. What will the government do? An army of bloodied zombies gathers in a high mountain consisting of their bodies, along the wall reaching the middle of its height, while the guards from above desperately try to stop them with weapons fire. What can they do if the zombie population has already reached 30 million? Proposed residential area for Busan refugees, Hyundai camp. On the beach there is a huge number of tents. Crowds of survivors scold and fight for supplies. A plump middle-aged man takes the bag from a small boy, causing him to fall to the ground. Chaos will begin among people, because everyone wants to survive. To the fat man's surprise, something hits him on the back of the head. A squad of people in police armor with growth accounts and skull masks stands in front of the survivors. One of them, who hit the overweight man, knocked him to the ground. He said, "Man, behave yourself." Then the command is given to calm everyone down and the police, armed with batons, attack the survivors. In the night city, you can see lights on the highest floors of skyscrapers, while from below, behind a barbed wire fence, police officers shed the blood of civilians. Inside a room on the top floor of one of the skyscrapers, many people in expensive clothes drink alcohol and talk in a luxurious atmosphere. Will the government continue to think of the people as rats? In general, nothing unusual. The real problem is that zombies will take over the world. Due to the frenzied demand of people flocking to the city, the prices of everything increased by 100 times. Crowds of people in business clothes are arguing about something while money is flying through the air. There is an announcement on the wall about the sale of the Central Hyundai Palace 32 pieces for 1.201 billion, and the number of homes decreased by 47,000. On the wall there is an announcement about the sale of apartments in some 24 pieces for 235 billion. Even monthly rent has become 30 times more expensive. Ads on the wall for the sale of a detached villa in Sasan 14 pieces for 1.352 billion. Those who did not have money for their house were not thrown over the wall into zombies. They stayed inside the walls, but spent the night on the streets, suffering and freezing from hunger and cold. Homeless people stand on the street under the snow, some of them lying motionless on the ground, covered with snow. Hell broke loose. The main character of this story is Cheol Soo Kim, 23 years old, unemployed, became homeless. Cheol Soo Kim stands on the street among homeless people in rags lying on the floor, warming himself near a makeshift fire in an iron barrel. Cheol Soo Kim says with an angry expression, "What are you staring at? First time you saw a homeless person." Some of those who read this manhwa also don't have a fixed place of residence. The paper ad says about the purchase and sale of a private house for 395 billion. The main character of this story is a loser without a home. In the morning, afternoon, and evening, he works 24 hours a day and gets only 450 million won. Cheol Soo Kim looks at his salary with a dissatisfied look. You can't spend a single penny to raise 395 billion won at 450 million a month. The main character visually imagines a huge mountain of cash that he needs to accumulate. So far, there are only 731 million. He looks thoughtfully at the fire and says that, based on the amount that the house currently costs, even the cheapest one will not be able to buy. Then, Cheol Soo Kim exhales and looks up at the billboard on the roof of the building. The billboard depicts a man in a bright orange suit in free fall, with an energetic smile pointing a finger at the viewer. It says, "The whole world is waiting for you. When a huge villa, register on the site." Cheol Soo Kim says there's only one way left, even though he admits it's a bad idea. An energetic man with a mohawk and an orange suit points his finger at the viewer and appeals to everyone who is watching the broadcast right now. He asks if they are starving and tired of being bottomless, making exaggerated pantomimes implying hunger and fatigue. He then asks if they are tired of the zombie noise on the city streets by pretending to be a zombie on camera. He asks if they hate their lives. With a solemn look, he says that only now, and only for them, there is a villa from Will. Lettering on the screen, "We kill and have fun with you. Forward to the money." He explains the rules of the game: the more zombies you kill, the more money you get. 500 million won per head. Just bring the proof. Still with the same energetic smile, the host tells you to go over the wall, kill the zombies, and then the money will be yours. He asks if it's possible to pass up such a chance to improve your life with a sinister grin. Soon, Cheol Soo Kim came to submit his application form. A long line of people stands in front of the reception windows. Cheol Soo Kim goes to the window, and the employee extends his hand to him, asking for money for participating in the show. After receiving the money, the employee counts them, makes sure that 120 million is available, and gives him a train ticket for a special operation, noting that he will arrive at landing pad number 3. The main character adjusts his backpack full of shovels and reflects, looking at his ticket, about what he stole from the shovel from the last job, and he can only kill the zombies, bring evidence, become the owner of the house, and live in his own pleasure. The train arrives at the landing site, and as Cheol Soo Kim approaches it, a blonde-haired girl runs in front of it, wearing a gas mask, carrying a crossbow and arrows on her back. She stumbles and falls in front of him, and the arrows fall to the ground. She sits up and apologizes. A large man in a yellow sweatshirt notices the arrows and picks them up with a sneer, to which the girl protests that he should not touch them, because they are not his. In response, the man only mockingly asks that she was going to kill zombies with some dilapidated arrows. In response, the girl jumps up to the man and tries to take her arrows from his hand, sharply replying that she is going to kill them with arrows, asking what else. Another big man in a green jacket grabs a girl by the hair, holding her crossbow in the other hand, and says that the zombies will die of laughter when they see such arrows, and tells them to take them and go home, then adds, pretending that he just remembered that she does not have a home, and, continuing pulling her hair, dragging her somewhere. Cheol Soo Kim walks over and grabs the man's wrist as he holds the girl's hair. The man in a rage asks who he is and demands to let go of his hand. Cheol Soo Kim lets go of his hand and the man grins contentedly, but he immediately knocks him to the ground, grabs his head with his hand in one motion, adding that guys who target people and not zombies always annoy him because they make it difficult for him to focus on killing zombies, and he wants to kill them, too. Shocked, the girl looks at Cheol Soo Kim with her eyes wide open and thanks him uncertainly. Cheol Soo Kim replies that there's nothing wrong with that, and that he's been thinking about having at least one ranged weapon in stock himself, looking at her crossbow in his hands. He added that he couldn't buy it because it was expensive. The girl in response is perplexed and cannot find the words to answer. Cheol Soo Kim notices a man in a yellow sweatshirt standing nearby with arrows in his hands, and he is startled. One of the guards in combat gear shouted at him to be quiet, but the other guard told him to stop watching everyone else, otherwise he would get tired, and sent him to rest in case they were sent on a special operation. Looking at how people get into the car, they talk about how they are happy that they will soon die in this operation. The train is leaving. The train arrives at the 17 infected area, Pohang Station. Destroyed multi-story buildings can be seen under the night sky. A green eye can be seen through the crack in the door. The car door opens and an elderly man with a receding hairline and a crowbar stands among the people who have arrived. There are questions in the crowd, phone in station. And where are all the zombies? Where are the soldiers? What should we do? While the groups of people leaving the car are scattered around the disfigured station. Cheol Soo Kim looks off into the distance with a crossbow in his hands as a girl in a gas mask tries in vain to take it from him. A loud call for attention comes from the speaker. People in the crowd point out that using speakers is crazy because zombies are sensitive to sounds. The voice from the speakers continues, "Thank you all for your good work." The voice says that Busan is in a difficult situation, and the government has come to the conclusion that it is necessary to get rid of part of the population so that everyone has enough food and shelter. Then the speaker makes an unbearably loud sound, which causes everyone present to cover their ears with their hands. The voice from the speaker, without stopping the sound, says Busan will remember your sacrifices. And people see a horde of bloodied zombies approaching in their direction, attracted by the loud sound. A man with a receding hairline in his age knocks on the driver's cab with all his might and demands to turn off the speakers, but he ignores, unhooks the cars and begins to drive away. People are desperately trying to catch up with the train. A man with a receding hairline falls to the ground and asks the train to stop, but soon a zombie pounces on him. The guys in the car kick out the other guy who is half inside the car, ignoring his pleas for help, and try to close the door. Through a crack in the door, formed in the sight of a guy begging for salvation, a zombie jumps into the car, catching everyone inside by surprise. Cheol Soo Kim and a girl wearing a gas mask watch the bloodshed from their carriage. He gives her the crossbow, but notes that he is renting it out for 10 won per second of use. The girl retorts that it is her crossbow, and in response, Cheol Soo Kim changes the conditions and demands 7,900 won per second, much to her surprise. Cheol Soo Kim takes off his shirt, leaving only the white tank top above his waist, and takes out a shovel from the bag on his back. The zombies turn around. Cheol Soo Kim exhales with a shovel stuck in the head of a motionless zombie and talks about how he has to catch a lot of zombies today. Zombies pounce on him from all sides, but he methodically cuts through the bodies of the approaching dead with strong blows. One of the zombies still managed to get close to Cheol Soo Kim and rammed him into the wall of the train car. A girl in a gas mask, standing on the roof of the train with a crossbow, notices this. Cheol Soo Kim's eyes roll up briefly, but soon they're back in place, and he gets up, bursting with rage, and begins to kill the zombies with even more force and speed, using not only his shovel, but also his legs. A girl with a crossbow jumps off the train to the ground, covered with chopped up zombie bodies. She looks towards the rising sun and sees Cheol Soo Kim sitting on a giant mountain of bloodied zombie bodies. The entire station area is covered in mounds of bodies and blood. She asks out loud if he killed them all, and Cheol Soo Kim asks her to shut up and help her count them all so that she can take them back and get the money. She asks why money is so important to him, and if he is afraid to die. Cheol Soo Kim replies that he wants to buy a house, which surprises the girl in the gas mask. Cheol Soo Kim adds that it is desirable to have a house with a huge yard, casually chopping off the head of a zombie approaching from behind with a shovel. This scene is seen on the screen by people in the third group of the Ministry of Defense. A man in a suit and glasses is amazed that he has killed all the zombies in this part of the zone, and a plump man in a shirt sitting at the console added that he has killed 8,000 zombies. Busan's fourth border area, Jijengun. In front of a wall of cargo containers, there are numerous barbed wire barricades with torn bodies stuck in them. One soldier looks through binoculars while the other sleeps behind him with his arms wrapped around his weapon. A soldier sees something through binoculars and shouts to wake up another, Sang Byun Kim. Sun Byun Kim wakes up abruptly, displeased with a sudden scream. A soldier with binoculars says he sees 12 zombies. Sun Byun Kim slaps his co-worker on the back of the head, saying that there are no zombies there. He looks through binoculars himself and sees people with bags, noticing that zombies can't carry bags on themselves, and said that they are definitely people, but most likely already infected. Sun Byun Kim starts to give the command to contact the platoon leader and ask for permission to fire live ammunition, but stops when he notices something. A girl in a gas mask is actively waving her hands and shouting not to shoot and that they are people, while Cheol Soo Kim silently walks beside her, covered from head to toe in blood, with 2 bags in his hands. Ministry of Defense Reception, Office 23. A man in a suit and glasses sits thoughtfully across the table from Cheol Soo Kim, who rubs the back of his head. The girl in the gas mask is standing next to him, looking at him with an unnatural straightness. The bespectacled man asks if he has killed 8,021 zombies alone, and after specifying that each head is worth 500 million won, he opens a briefcase full of bundles of 50,000 won bills on the table. He announced the full amount, 401,500 billion won. A girl wearing a gas mask looks at the huge amount of money in surprise while Cheol Soo Kim touches the money with her hands. The man with glasses asks in exchange for a lump sum payment to respect confidentiality and not to tell anyone where he received this money. While one of the employees hands Cheol Soo Kim a clipboard with a document and asks him to sign it, a plump man in a shirt whispers to the bespectacled man about whether they really have to pay such a large sum. In response, the manager tells him that if there were such conditions, then yes, and they will not suffer a big loss. He is then asked about what they should do with the bag full of zombie noses, to which the manager tells them to just throw it away, because all they have to do is make sure that Cheol Soo Kim actually managed to kill so many zombies. While Cheol Soo Kim signs the document with his fingerprint, the manager says with a malicious grin that he has finally found a way to avoid paying taxes, and Cheol Soo Kim will help them with this. Cheol Soo Kim and a girl wearing a gas mask walk out of the building, while Cheol Soo Kim is carrying 4 briefcases with money in them. The girl asks him where he's going now, and Cheol Soo Kim puts the briefcases on the ground. He takes out a wad of money and throws it to the girl, saying that it's 3,000 million won for helping her, and now they're even, and added that now she doesn't have to go after him. Cheol Soo Kim walked on, and the girl stayed where she was with a worried face, and then called out to him that if he bought a big house, he would invite her to live there as well, and that she would give him a housewarming gift. The main character bought a house with a small courtyard near Sosanggu in Busan. Cheol Soo Kim looks at his newfound home next to its former owner, an elderly man in a red sweater. The man calmly announced to Cheol Soo Kim that this house was now his. Cheol Soo Kim silently entered the courtyard, then went inside the house and took off his shoes, remaining barefoot. Walking through the house, he accidentally steps on a nail sticking out of the floor and notices that the blood coming from his foot is black. He notices that black blood usually flows from zombies and it can be too dangerous for humans. Cheol Soo Kim's veins swell black, his eyes fill with blood, and he screams. He comes to the conclusion that the people from the government have thought it all out. A memory of a younger boy eating while an older boy talks about how his mom and dad were separated on the way here, and his brother thinks they're still alive, and how his brother is going to buy a house. The boy asks him why, and he says that he wants to buy a house so that when they come back, they can see the nameplate on the house and be able to find them. A manager in a suit and glasses gets out of a car with a loudspeaker in his hand in front of Cheol Soo Kim's new home, surrounded by a lot of police officers and people in black suits. He picks up the loudspeaker and demands to get out of the house and raise your hands, then adds with a grin that he may already be infected. A fat man in a white t-shirt asks the manager if this is the right thing to do, and asks why they should do it if they could just not give the money back, and adds that now they have not only lost a person who can kill all the zombies, but also added problems to themselves. The manager told him that when word spread that there were survivors in their operation, there was a chance that the slashers might find them first. The guy asks him who the slashers are. Police armed with shields lined up in front of Cheol Soo Kim's house. The manager says that no one needs to know about this, adds that he will kill him first, and gives the command to go inside. With a sinister smile, he says that they will get rid of Cheol Soo Kim under Article 7, Paragraph 3, and the infected person's property will be confiscated. Cheol Soo Kim comes out of the house with a grim face and black swollen veins. The manager notes that the infection was successful. Cheol Soo Kim talks about the zombies and poverty he's experienced in his life and the deception he's been subjected to right now. And while clutching his t-shirt on his chest, he starts to talk about what he wanted, but the manager mockingly cuts him off with an insult. Cheol Soo Kim shouts with tears in one eye that he just wanted to buy a house. He screams and asks if this is such an impossible dream that the whole world stops him. The police are alarmed by what is happening. Cheol Soo Kim runs to meet them and shouts that he wants his family to live happily ever after. With tears in his eyes, he asks why they clung to him. Aqua City, Hyundai. Skyscrapers glisten under a clear blue sky. Luxurious interior. Next to the closed door is a crossbow. A girl with blonde hair takes a shower. From the other side of the door, a woman with dark skin and white hair addresses her as the general manager and informs her that a customer has arrived scheduled for 5:30. She asks her to tell him to wait and says he'll be right there. The woman behind the door answers in the affirmative. A large man in a jacket with black hair is waiting on a chair, tapping his foot nervously. The door opens and a blonde-haired woman, Choi Jun, CEO of Choi & Jang, and part-time girl who wore a gas mask walks in and apologizes for waiting. A dark-skinned woman introduces the visitor, Myung Ho Young. Choi Jun greets him and asks why he chose their company. He nervously replies that he has heard that there is a company that can help with finding things. Choi Jun replies that he has come to the right place and there are people in their company who specialize in infected areas. She explains that they clean up zombie zones and restore them to a habitable environment, and their company specializes in everything. Then she adds that she manages slashers that catch zombies and search for things. A dark-skinned woman hands him a quotation book. As he scrolls through it, he sees hundreds of billions of dollars and thinks that the prices are too high. Choi Jun explains that the amount charged may vary depending on the size or position of the item to be found, and gives an example that finding a 200-kilogram safe in an infected area is much more expensive than finding a regular light purse. Myung Ho Young says that he only has 100 million won on him. Choi Jun's face immediately changes and he turns to the dark-skinned woman. Secretary Park, are you wasting my time on pathetic beggars? Myung Ho Young counters that he can offer 500 million won and explains that he bought a few bitcoins before the zombie apocalypse, and while the dollar and won are falling, Bitcoin is only getting more expensive and he can pay with them. He promises to sell them and give some of the proceeds, but asks them to wait. Choi Jun's expression changes again, and he smiles approvingly. Myung Ho Young notes that hiring slashers is very expensive and wonders if they can offer anything cheaper. Choi Jun suggests asking the newbie. After a while, Myung Ho Young leaves his Visa card on the table and leaves after thanking him. Secretary Park points out that she has never heard of any newcomer and asks Choi Jun if she met him at the Special Ops. Choi Jun replies that she found him interesting that day and says she should go now. She asks to get everything ready for her exit and invites Park to go to a housewarming party with her. Cheol Soo Kim shouts in tears that he just wanted to buy a house and asks if it's an impossible dream that the whole world is stopping him. He shouts that this is his family's house and asks why they are coming at him while he is running towards the police. You shouldn't push people into a corner. This was the only rule that was secretly spread between soldiers and politicians after the construction of the wall, because you can't predict what the rats will do if they are cornered. Enraged, Cheol Soo Kim threw the policeman to the ground. Someone shouted that it was a zombie. A policeman lying on the ground hit Cheol Soo Kim with a baton, but he didn't even feel the blow and remembered that he was infected. Then it bites into the policeman's neck, tearing the flesh, and he screams in pain. The rest of the police watch in horror as the cop screams for them to take him down. The police jump on Cheol Soo Kim, kick him and try to pull him away, but they tear him off along with a piece of the policeman's neck, and the policeman rolls his eyes. A fat man in a shirt says that he specifically asked him to infect. The bespectacled manager orders the infected creatures' heads to be torn down, and notes that it is difficult to deal with zombies when they are intelligent, but in 3 minutes they will be completely infected. He points to corner him before his mind disappears. Cheol Soo Kim is lying on the ground, and the police can't make up their minds to step forward. Annoyed, the manager shouts over the loudspeaker that there are a dozen of them and they have nothing to fear, while also reminding them about the money. The police are frozen in place, still hesitating to step forward, as Cheol Soo Kim slowly gets to his feet and says that no one can take his house away from him. The policemen and Cheol Soo Kim finally rushed to meet each other, and soon the courtyard was just the motionless bodies of the policemen and their infected colleagues devouring their fallen comrades. The manager fell to the ground in fear and put his back against the car. A fat man in a shirt crawls over to him in tears and begs him to save him, while a zombie cop clings to him and tears at his flesh. Then he vomits up blood. The manager doesn't understand why things turned out this way, because Cheol Soo Kim is just an ordinary guy. A guy in an orange uniform with orange-blue hair wonders aloud that the manager is still alive, standing on the roof of the car behind him. The manager asks him who he is, and he pulls out a gun with a circular saw at the end of it. He is a Class B slasher, early B Ha Sang-soo, kills 77,890. The manager realizes who he is, introduces himself as Kim Moon-sik, the head of the 3rd group of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and asks to be rescued. Ha Sang-soo turns around and asks, "What do you think, sister?" Choi Jun comes out from behind him and is surprised that the zombies are also talking. Ha Sang-soo takes the hint and cuts off the manager's head with his saw. Then he takes on the surrounding zombie cops, and when he's finished, he asks what's wrong with the owner of the house. Cheol Soo Kim is on his knees with empty eyes. Ha Sang-soo notes that the transformation into a zombie is almost over and offers to blow off his head. Choi Jun tells him to wait. She reflects on how Cheol Soo Kim suppressed his transformation after dealing with all the enemies, and how he has great willpower. She thinks with anticipation that if he is made into a slasher, he can be sold dearly. She tells him that if he touches him, she will cut his salary. Ha Sang-soo notes that it will be a bit difficult to perform the sealing. Choi Jun squats down in front of Cheol Soo Kim and asks him if he can hear her. Cheol Soo Kim looks up and sees her. She asks if he wants to live. Cheol Soo Kim is vomiting blood. She insists that he answer her. He tells her if she can see him turning into a zombie. Choi Jun-soo says that they are a zombie service and calls themselves Slasher. She adds that she won't wait long, and that she also survived the first wave when she went to the infected area. She says that this is a job that only survivors who have killed more than 100 zombies can get into, and that because of the high income they receive, the government is not very happy about their existence. Cheol Soo Kim replies that this is predictable, but adds that he is already practically a zombie. Choi Jun says that he can give him medicine before he turns into a zombie, and takes out a font with purple content and says that he will have to work it out by working as a slasher. She repeats her question, asking if he will become their service dog in this hellish world, and if he wants to live. Before he can answer, Cheol Soo Kim coughs up blood. Ha Sang-soo takes the syringe and retorts that there is no time to wait, and asks who in this world wants to die at all. He injects medicine into Cheol Soo Kim's neck and says they can't leave him to die. Cheol Soo Kim falls to the ground. Choi Jun agrees with what happened. Ha Sang-soo notices that there is too much poison in Cheol Soo Kim and asks what they will do. Choi Jun counters that the medicine costs 500 billion won and asks if he offers to inject another one, adding that he won't pay for it in a lifetime. Ha Sang-soo mimics her and says that he can and will pay, and that they have to save him anyway. He tells her to give Cheol Soo Kim a second dose. Cheol Soo Kim wakes up in the car and clears his throat. He asks the driver who he is and where he is. The driver replies that he is clearly not in a taxi and asks up to what point he remembers everything. Cheol Soo Kim recalls recent events, participating in a show, killing zombies, buying a house. He then remembers in horror that he has become infected and has become a zombie. He hastily checks his body and looks at his reflection in the tablet screen, only to discover that he is still human. The driver notes that Cheol Soo Kim has not lost his memory and asks if he remembers the gray-haired woman. Cheol Soo Kim remembers Choi Jun asking him if he wants to live. He recognizes her as a girl in a gas mask and says that he remembers exactly that he was infected in his house. The driver points to a tablet on the back of the seat in front of Cheol Soo Kim and tells him to watch the video on it. There will be answers to basic questions while he focuses on driving. The road they're traveling on is full of stray zombies, abandoned cars, and overgrown grass. The driver deftly maneuvers and dodges zombies running towards the car. Cheol Soo Kim swings from side to side in the seat, but he still manages to turn on the tablet. Choi Jun appears on the screen with her hair pulled back in a bun, wearing glasses and a strict gray suit. She cheerfully greets the viewer and says that she is glad that he included this video and informs that she is an instructor at the moment. Cheol Soo Kim is confused about what's happening on the screen. Choi Jun writes the word slasher in the blackboard and introduces himself as the instructor of the slasher team. She explains that slashers are specialized people who work mainly with zombies. They clear territories, search for lost items, kill zombies, and the list doesn't end there. She asks herself why they exist if the government has its own soldiers. With a smart look, Na answers his own question by saying that the government is a redneck and they do not have enough cash payment. During the zombie apocalypse, a huge amount of money has been spent on producing ammunition and arming soldiers, and they are running out of equipment, gunpowder, and ammunition. She draws a cartoon with a soldier standing on the wall and an evil little man with a stick behind the wall in front of him and explains that at the moment there are not enough supplies to kill zombies that pass through the wall, and therefore the government decided to put on a show in order to get rid of the cost of feeding people. Choi Jun explains that the fewer people there are, the less money there is to spend on food, and says that the idea of people also killing zombies for free is tempting for the government. She declares that slashers are students who are working off their huge debts to the government. Cheol Soo Kim can't understand what she's talking about. Choi Jun continues the lecture by raising another question. Why should I join slashers if I don't want to? What Cheol Soo Kim reacts to. She gives an answer to the question that one uncle said that the viewer owed him a big debt. Cheol Soo Kim wonders what kind of debt he is talking about. Choi Jun then slams his fist on the board, which has a dent in it, and says that if he says that he doesn't owe money, he won't be well, and says that you need to pay for the medicine that made him human. She goes on to say that the price of the drug is 1,000,000 times higher than usual because it was developed in a secret way. It calls its price 500 billion per ampoule. Then she calculates the installment plan based on 23% and says that $115 trillion will have to be paid and that he will be on the slasher team until he pays and there is no other choice. You're our new slave, Choi Jun concludes, and the screen turns off. Startled, Cheol Soo Kim stares at the blank screen in silence. The driver turns to him and asks if he can tell us about the current situation now. His name is Mr. Choi. He is a personal driver. The number of murders is 1712. Baffled, Cheol Soo Kim unbuckles his seatbelt, asks what the big deal is, and asks him to stop the car so he can get out. Mr. Choi replies that he should look out the window. They are standing on an abandoned road, in front of them a building surrounded by a crowd of zombies. Mr. Choi throws him a radio transmitter and some kind of instrument and tells him that his mission is to go deep into the street and get a hard drive. He adds that he won't help him, and tells him to get the radio and tell him how to get to the hard drive, and that he thinks he won't want to buy a house with a zombie-infested yard. He said that if he wanted to go back to Busan, he needed to do as he was told. Mr. Choi ended the conversation by telling him to kill the zombies and get the disc. The train changed into new clothes and went to perform tasks. He approached the crowd of zombies. What? Cheol Soo Kim asked with an angry look on his face. He hated zombies, so he hid behind the wall, but most of all on the wall, he hated being poor, so he got out of the wall to kill zombies. Choi Jun is in her office, talking to Mr. Choi on the radio and asking him to keep her in Kira. Mr. Choi replies that right now, Cheol Soo Kim seems upset, but still went to complete the assignment. Choi Jun thanked him, reminded him of the CD, and said goodbye. Secretary Park took the radio from Choi Jun and asked how things were going, adding that Cheol Soo Kim wasn't even fully recovered, but was already on a mission. Choi Jun replied as she covered her nails with nail polish that he would succeed and she believed in his hound spirit. Park asked what she would do if he couldn't handle it. Cheol Soo Kim took something out of his pocket and shouted to the crowd of zombies, "Shall we dance, guys?" Choi Jun responded to Park that she couldn't even imagine him failing, adding 5 trillion won. Armed with a shovel, Cheol Soo Kim started jumping on the zombies' heads and then started slicing their heads open with the shovel. A very large zombie appeared behind him, and he hit it hard with the flat of the shovel in the face, causing it to fall on its side and fall. Then he cut the other zombie in half with the shovel, and when he was done, he caught his breath. A drone flies over this scene. Choi Jun looks at the video feed from this drone, watching Cheol Soo Kim's actions, and says that she was sure that he would succeed. Mr. Choi, looking at the monitor in his car, tells Choi Jun on the radio that the camera angle is excellent. Choi Jun agrees and tells him to forget to record a commercial based on this video. She tapped her wine glass lightly on the monitor and offered a toast to the newcomer's successful debut. With a shovel in hand, Cheol Soo Kim marvels at how anyone can pay off a $5 trillion debt in the first place. Enraged, he recounts the problems that have befallen him all this time: zombies, poverty, government, and now debt. Out of anger, he hit the now motionless zombie once more, cursing the fact that the whole world seemed to have converged on him like a wedge. He thinks that he can't just pay back the $5 trillion and he'll have to be a slave for the rest of his life. He pictured Choi Jun sitting complacently on the throne, holding a chain in her hand that bound Cheol Soo Kim as he lay on the ground. He decides that he needs to find some psycho who will agree to kill her. He imagined pinning her to the ground and holding the shovel to her throat. Cheol Soo Kim thought about how the problem was how to get back to Busan, and suggested that if he pretended to be a good listener, he would take him to Busan by looking at a piece of paper taped to the radio that said, Jeongju, 11th floor, 406 apartment. He started walking down the road toward the building, thinking that he didn't like it, but it was better to work off the deck quickly. Cheol Soo Kim found a sign that said Entrance 1, 406. Mr. Choi, looking at the monitor with a joystick in his hand, watched Cheol Soo Kim through the drone and praised the frame, saying that it must be recorded. He took off his sunglasses and lowered the seat, thinking that there are some talented guys who kill zombies as easily as if they were cracking seeds, who are endowed with good physical strength, stamina, and intelligence, and such people are needed in slasher games. Looking at the picture on his phone, he said that he had to become like this so that his daughter would be happy. Something fell on the window of the car, and Mr. Choi quickly took out an axe, only to find that it was a piece of flesh. He got out of the car and noticed that the cuts on him were clean, as if they had been cut recently, and they were not zombies, but a person. Mr. Choi noticed movement on the roof, but didn't understand what it was. Inside the piece of meat is a phone, on the screen of which you can see the countdown. The countdown reached 0, and a bright light and loud sound emanated from the piece of meat. Mr. Choi noticed the phone, but a crowd of zombies were already running towards it. A trap, Mr. Choi said. A trap, said Cheol Soo Kim, and asked where he could find the right disc while standing in a room full of computers. His patience ran out, and he cursed that it was impossible, began to kick everything that he could find. Half an hour later, Cheol Soo Kim comes out with a packed bag on his back and 2 bags full of hard drives. He said he hoped something would work. He took out the radio and said there was a lot of stuff in there, and he took what he saw fit. When there was no answer, he said that he was going to the place where he had been dropped off. From the radio in the empty car, Cheol Soo Kim's voice can be heard shouting, "Can you answer it?" Hello there. Around the car lie the chopped up bodies of zombies, and a little further the zombies tear apart the lifeless body of Mr. Choi. A man in a chemical protection suit approaches the car and hears the radio. He realizes that they have come here to find the disc, and wonders if he should take it back, putting the meat in his bag. This is Park Sang-chul, a former Choi and Jang slasher. He once killed zombies, too, but his work was devalued, and now he turns people into zombies for revenge. A memory of Park Sang-chul. Choi Jun says, "Good job, Mr. Ghost," and hands Park Sang-chul an envelope of money. He opens the envelope and asks so little. Choi Jun replied that there were few orders this month, and since he was working in a group, the amount was distributed among other slashers, especially since there were discounts on his services. This month, deduct 30% off discounts, taxes, and so on. That makes 50 million, Choi Jun explained calmly. Park Sang-chul furiously squeezed the paper in his hand and said that it was too small. Choi Jun got angry and told him to raise his rating first, then ask for more pay and told him to do a more difficult job. Then she added, "next month," and winked. However, Park Sang-chul never rose above Class C. Park Sang-chul watches through binoculars as Cheol Soo Kim carries his load and wonders if that's the whole order, and laments the fact that he has to eat from the garbage cans and still doesn't have enough to live on, and wonders why he has to get more of it while keeping a piece of meat with the phone up to date, leading the time report, in your hand. He said that he needed to get rid of all the slashers and threw a piece of meat in Cheol Soo Kim's face. He looked at the piece of meat that flew at him in disbelief, and then the phone inside started making a loud sound, attracting a crowd of zombies around. Cheol Soo Kim cursed angrily when he saw what was happening. Park Han-sol collects phones in a bag at an abandoned hardware store. The most sensitive organs of a zombie's senses are the ears or hearing and smell. Park Han-sol cuts meat and puts on chemical protection. Then he douses himself with a liquid to get rid of his smell. The main character wonders why meat makes a sound and wonders if it was made in China. Park Han-sol points out that this is the fastest slasher he's ever seen. He sees Cheol Soo Kim being surrounded by zombies and begins to gloat, thinking that he is finished. He says that in this scenario, it's over, and even in a class slasher who claims to be able to break through a siege of thousands of zombies won't be able to handle it. Then he starts opening his bag with the words that now you need to get rid of the zombies with another bait to get the newbies' finds. However, his train of thought was interrupted by Cheol Soo Kim shoveling all the zombies that surrounded him. Park Han-sol realized late on that speaking of a third-rate con artist, he couldn't have predicted the main character's resurrection spell. Cheol Soo Kim isn't a second-rate C-class slasher like himself, but a monster with gigantic potential. Park Han-sol thinks he's lost his mind as he watches Cheol Soo Kim swearing that zombie blood has stained his clothes. Cheol Soo Kim uses a powerful shovel to deal with the crowd of zombies surrounding him. Park Han-sol looks at what is happening and does not understand what kind of monster it is. He thinks that it is completely different from what it was a couple of minutes ago and compare it to a blender. He reassures himself that while the zombies distract him, he won't find him and he just needs to be quiet. He also thinks that if he continues to fight zombies, he will eventually get tired. Park Han-sol comes out of hiding to throw another piece of meat, but Cheol Soo Kim spots him and realizes that it was he who threw the meat. Park Han-sol throws a piece of meat in his face. As the new zombie mob approached Cheol Soo Kim, he told Park Han-sol that he would kill him if he waited. As chunks of meat fell from the sky, Cheol Soo Kim used his incredible power to turn zombies into minced meat. While Park Han-sol was throwing his bait, Cheol Soo Kim is only spinning faster and faster. Park Han-sol notices that the meat and phones have run out and only a large one-time trap remains, and he decides to ask her to avoid it because no one can escape from it. Suddenly, a zombie's head falls in front of him, and Cheol Soo Kim tells him that he hasn't dealt with it yet, continuing to kill the zombies with a shovel. As Park Han-sol ran away, he thought that zombies were higher up the food chain than humans, but this slasher was above them. Then he thought about how he was killing slashers, which meant he was the ultimate link in this ecosystem. His thoughts are interrupted by a zombie thrown in front of him. He turns around and sees Cheol Soo Kim and asks him why there are people like him. Cheol Soo Kim asked him if he kills slashers. He didn't answer. Cheol Soo Kim continued by saying that he will have to pay with his life not only for hitting him, but also for destroying his driver and car. Park Han-sol told him that he had humiliated him and put his hand in his pocket. A gun, Cheol Soo Kim thought. Deciding that he must win, he throws a shovel at him and it stabs him in the shoulder. In response, Park Han-sol grins and pulls out the device, suggesting that they die together, and activates it. In the amusement park around them, lights come on and a voice comes out of the speakers saying, "Welcome to the world of Jeongju." He tells him to think, if you can use your phone to summon dozens or hundreds of zombies, how many will there be if you use the amusement park? Cheol Soo Kim shouts at him that then they will both die. The latter tells him that Jeongju has a population of 260,000 and tells him to drop all thoughts of survival. The amusement park is filled with a crowd of zombies. An elderly man in a hat approaches them and asks which of them did it. Cheol Soo Kim thinks about what kind of grandfather he is, where he came from, and why he is here. The man never gets an answer and repeats the question. Losing patience, he asks if it is necessary to become quiet, takes out a fishing rod and breaks the speakers. Then he asks again who did it. This is in a class Kang Deegan slasher Kim Kai-sam kills 112,700. Cheol Soo Kim raises his hand and says, "I think I am." Kim Kai-sam, holding a cup in his hands, sitting next to Secretary Park standing behind, asks, "You're asking me to find a rookie slasher." Choi Jun replies that they lost contact with Slasher who was recently sent after a mutant. She added that most likely he met with him, or slasher hunters. Kim Kai-sam finished the sentence. Choi Jun continued by saying that she called a helicopter and it will arrive at the headquarters helipad in 30 minutes. Secretary Park places a suitcase in front of him. Choi Jun asks to find and bring the mutant to her. The suitcase opens and it's full of money. She says that if he does they will pay 500 billion. Kim Kai himself interrupts her and retorts that this is unnecessary, asking her when he ever fulfilled requests for money. He demanded medicine. She protested that no matter how urgent the situation was, she couldn't give him the medicine because it was worth 300 billion won. Your new toy behind the wall, Kim Jae-sam asks as he takes a sip from his cup. He adds that the terms of the deal are not offered in a hurry and he does not consider this task urgent. He says that if they give him medicine, he will give her the $200 billion he saved and save the toy by throwing her a $200 billion check. Then he asks her if she agrees. Kim Kai himself asks who did this to Park Han-sol and Cheol Soo Kim. Kim Kai himself says that he came to the right place then and thinks that his body looks strong enough. He wonders if it is innate. He sees the fire in his eyes, the rough skin of his hands, proving that he has been through a lot. Then he says that he has all the qualities. Cheol Soo Kim notices that the old man is looking at him with a sticky and crazy look and understands who sent him. He asks him who he is. He tells him to think of him as his mentor. Cheol Soo Kim asks if he didn't come to pick him up in Busan. A crowd of zombies breaks into the amusement park through the fence. Cheol Soo Kim says that you need to deal with them first. Kim Kai himself hits him on the head with a float and tells him that his teacher has not even finished speaking and he has already started acting, and tells him to learn to listen to his elders. Cheol Soo Kim asks him how they can get out of here. He replies that he was taught to teach him and the lessons are not over yet and he already wants to leave the class, and asks him why then he came to school. Cheol Soo Kim thinks about how he's just as crazy as the guy in the gas mask and they both don't want to listen to what the others are saying. Kim Kai himself announces the start of the first lesson and asks him what killing zombies and catching fish have in common. The main character does not understand what fishing has to do with the situation in which they are right now. Kim Kai himself hooks a huge fish-shaped lure with 2 hooks and throws it into the crowd of zombies, saying that he hopes they will like it. Cheol Soo Kim shouts at him about the zombies surrounding him. He says that you need to know exactly when to pull and that it is important to have a lot of patience. Then he tells him to bend down. Cheol Soo Kim clung to the ground. Kim Kai himself makes a turn around himself and with one movement of the fishing line breaks in half all the zombies surrounding him. Cheol Soo Kim asks him how many fish he caught in one go. He replies that he threw a hook at 30 meters, so he thinks about 1,000. Cheol Soo Kim thinks that this old man, despite his talkativeness, still knows his business. Park Han-sol appears from behind, looking like a huge pile of muscle, laughing and asking if they've forgotten about him. Cheol Soo Kim notices that he has turned into a zombie and assumes that he was hit by a fishing rod made of contaminated blood. Kim Kai himself says that this is called mutants. It is often found among zombies and suggests that judging by the changes that have occurred in his body, he can be attributed to the C class. When Park Han-sol heard this, he laughed and remembered Choi Jun telling them to upgrade if something went wrong and start with C class. Enraged at being judged so low, he lunges at Kim Kai-sam and punches him in the torso with a giant fist, sending him flying into the wall. He cries and tells Cheol Soo Kim that he hates a rookie like him and hates top-notch slasher Kang Taegong. Kim Kai-sam's arm is sticking out from under the rubble. Park Han-sol tearfully tells Cheol Soo Kim that as long as he is conscious, he will kill him. Cheol Soo Kim replies that he can't hear what he's mumbling. Park Han-sol swings his huge arm, and Cheol Soo Kim notices that he's much bigger than the other zombies and incredibly fast, and he's not sure if he can dodge. Just before Park Han-sol is about to strike, something cuts off his arm, to the surprise of both him and Cheol Soo Kim. Kim Kai himself tells Park Han-sol that he remembers him, and that he also worked as a slasher once. He asks if he is the cowardly child who always wore a protective suit. He says that he never fought a zombie, but was just a kid who stole everything that was bad while other slashers bought time, but that was not enough for him, and so he became a slasher hunter and now a mutant. Kim Kai himself adds that he doesn't have to answer and calls him a fool. Park Han-sol becomes enraged and swings at him with her remaining arm, only to be cut in half by a fishing line. Kim Kai himself turns to Cheol Soo Kim and tells him to remember that he doesn't have to be a butcher who kills zombies just for profit. He tells him not to become a real monster and says Choi Jun is waiting for him. Kim Kai himself, being somewhat younger, goes fishing by the lake. He was fishing out a large red fish when his phone rang. With some difficulty, he read the phone and saw that it was his daughter-in-law calling him. He greets her, says that they haven't called in a while, and asks her what happened, assuming that she had a fight with Kim So-ban or that he called and said that he couldn't come to Chuseok. From her response, he knows something is wrong and nervously asks what happened. Surrounded by bloodstains, she sits on the floor of the room, propping up the door with her back, on the other side of which there is a crash, and says that Jae-sung bit his father and he lost a lot of blood and froth from his mouth. Kim Kai doesn't know what she's talking about, so he asks her to repeat it, but slowly. In tears, she asks what she should do, saying that 911 isn't responding and she's locked herself in the bedroom, but Jae-sung keeps banging on the door. Kim Kai drops everything by himself and says he's leaving and asks him to wait. In response, his daughter-in-law says that she is very scared, and Kim Kai himself sees an alert on his phone. National Disaster Management Agency, the new rabies pandemic is spreading rapidly in the capital's region. Stay at home and avoid contact with people. Kim Kai-sam and Cheol Soo Kim are flying in a helicopter when the pilot announces that they have reached the roof of Aquacity. He then adds that it was a great honor to meet Kim Kai himself in person, and he only heard of him as a hero. The hero, Kim Kai-sam repeated and looked away into the distance. The attendant on the roof greeted them and let them in. Kim Kai-sam and Cheol Soo Kim ride in the elevator. Cheol Soo Kim asks Kim Kai-sam what his story is. He replies that he is a slasher like them, who kills zombies and makes money. The latter asked him how he remained so strong at his age, and whether people look down on old people. So what? Kim Kai-sam asks. Cheol Soo Kim asks how he can become like him. He laughed and said that there were many useless questions, but the answer was the same, whether it was a maniac spreading madness and living in affluence, or a person opening a store in Haeundae, or a homeless person on the street, everyone lost something. He then added that those who are determined to take it all back are strong and respected. He says that he is now asking the questions, and asks Cheol Soo Kim what he has lost. Cheol Soo Kim reflects on what he has lost: the parents who were separated from him in the panic and confusion of the crowd, the childhood he spent doing hard physical labor, the friends who turned into zombies, the brother who was impaled on an iron spike with his body. Kim Jae-sam notes out loud that it looks like he's lost a lot, and he tells him to think about what he'd like to get back first. Home, says Cheol Soo Kim. With a sad look on his face, he says that in his most pleasant memories, he had a home. Jingling the keys in front of him, Choi Jun says that they mortgaged Cheol Soo Kim's house and that it doesn't belong to him anymore. In response, Cheol Soo Kim got angry and asked how dare she mortgage his property. Choi Jun got angry at the audacious insult and began to list the latest expenses: 500 billion for medical treatment, the additional cost of sending in a class slasher, the cost of insurance for the taxi driver who died, the cost of helicopter evacuation, a total of more than 800 billion. This is an incredibly large debt, she concluded, showing a very long amount on the calculator screen. She then goes on to say that at worst, a hard drive containing coins or cryptocurrencies could have come in handy, but Cheol Soo Kim lost and came back empty-handed. Choi Jun slammed her hands on the table and asked him what else he dared to call her. She asks him if he is a human, a zombie, or a brute. Cheol Soo Kim counters that he didn't ask her to treat him and asks if he wouldn't have walked all the way to Jeongju by himself. When he comes to her desk, he hits it with his fist and tells her to give him the keys to the house since she is so kind. Choi Jun objects and asks what he will do if she doesn't give it back and reminds him that she's keeping him on a leash. Cheol Soo Kim objects and starts swinging his fist at her, but Kim Kai himself tells him to stop and that she is right to take out her fishing rod. He adds that she did not make a mistake in her calculations and there is nothing to be done about it. Cheol Soo Kim says it doesn't make sense right now, this is his home, and he thinks it's up to him to decide whether he wants to be a zombie or not. He starts to talk about how she took everything from him, but Kim Kai himself cuts him off and reminds him that he told him that he could get everything back. He says it's just zombies, tens of thousands. Kim Kai himself says that he gets commissions here and buys goods, he clears the land here and will repay him with what satisfies the government. Let me help you, master, Cheol Soo Kim replies, and Kim Kai lets go of his own fishing rod. Cheol Soo Kim turns to Choi Jun and says with an angry look on his face that there will come a day when he will pay off his debts and get his house back, and that on that day he will remember her. Sticking out her tongue, Choi Jun tells him not to die and reminds him that she's in the red because of him. She then turns to Kim Jae-sam and says that a promise is a promise and she will give him the medicine because Cheol Soo Kim will compensate her, but says no more unfair deals. Kim Kai takes the medicine himself and thanks her. She asks him if he can keep Cheol Soo Kim for himself, to which he replies that he doesn't know the world yet, looking at how angry he is. Then he adds that he's good, but he can't help himself, and that he hopes he'll be at least as good as Ha Sang-soo. Kim Kai himself says that they're done here, and Cheol Soo Kim gives Choi Jun the middle finger when she adds that when they come to the slasher party tomorrow night, bring Cheol Soo Kim with them, because to know your goal, you need to see the world. Cheol Soo Kim and Kim Kai-sam walk down the hall. Kim Kai himself tells him that they have taken his house, so he will stay with them for now, which is better than nothing. He adds that he will soon find it again, and tells him to live here until then. Cheol Soo Kim says that he would like this to happen soon, and asks what the Brotherhood is. Kim Kai himself begins by saying the people of Baekjung, the slasher people living on the land of Busan in Korea. Madmen who stood out from the crowd and were recognized as slashers, divided into 4 classes. Class A, 100,000 units, Class B, 30,000 plus units, Class C, 5,000 plus units, Class D, 100 plus units. Kim Jae-sam continues, this is a campaign put together to bring these madmen together. Kim Kai-sam and Cheol Soo Kim walk down a city street full of old people. They finally reach the buildings. Kim Kai himself says that the stairs are almost invisible when the sun goes down. This is the place that will be Cheol Soo Kim's home from now on. Kim Kai himself says that Cheol Soo Kim stinks like a rotting corpse and offers to wash it. Kim Kai himself pours water from a basin over Cheol Soo Kim while he is on all fours. Cheol Soo Kim hangs up the washed clothes to dry. He eats dinner at the same table with Kim Jae-sam and then they go to bed together. Cheol Soo Kim asks him how much he earned from hunting. Kim Kai himself confirms. He asks him where he spent all that money. He explains that he does not think that all the money went to this crumbling house without a toilet and with a tap on the street, notes that he eats quite ordinary food, does not meet girls. Kim Kai himself recalls that he said that all slashers are obsessed with something, and gives the example that Cheol Soo Kim is obsessed with the house. He asks what Kim Kai-sam is obsessed with. He gets out of bed and says it will be easier to show them. He opens the lock with a key and opens a cabinet with photos of his family members, next to which are syringes with medicine. He says he may be crazy, but this is what he managed to raise $500 billion per shot. Cheol Soo Kim asks what the pictures are next to the medicine, to which Kim Kai himself replies that it's family. He admits that he plans to go to Seoul and turn his family back into people. Cheol Soo Kim wanted to ask how he was going to get through 10 million zombies in Seoul and even more zombies on the way to Seoul. Even if he succeeds, and all the people dear to him get the medicine, they will not become normal people. Cheol Soo Kim wonders what the point is. He remembers an older brother who wanted to buy a house so that he could meet his parents, who are unlikely to return. He thinks about how he himself came out of the four walls to fulfill his brother's dream. Cheol-soo Kim realizes that none of them are sane. He tells Kim Ki-sam that he understood what he meant by saying that they were all crazy. Kim Ki-sam, happy that he finally got it, asks him to repeat it. He grudgingly repeats that he has understood why they are all crazy and calls them to sleep. Cheol-soo Kim looks at the seascape under the sun. He turns around and sees Kim Jae-sam in a gray business suit with black stripes, a gray shirt and a white tie, and notes that he is well dressed and asks if he finds this outfit a little pretentious for a social event. Kim Ki himself says that at social events they like to stare at crazy people like him and that they are obsessed with formalities. He tells Cheol-soo Kim that he will be looked down upon if he shows up in what he is wearing, to which he retaliates with an offer to catch a zombie and take his clothes away. Kim Ki doesn't insist. A black car pulls up and a man in a suit gets out, greets Kim Ki-sam, and opens the car door for him, but the man stops Cheol-soo Kim from getting in, saying that his client is Kim Ki-sam. Cheol-soo Kim objects that they won't spend more gas if they take one more person and starts banging on the car, but the man grabs him by the wrist, says that it's likely that his operator will arrive soon and take him home, and reminds him of the rank hierarchy. He tells him not to flatter himself and to be nicer. His name is Jang Kai-cho, Kim Ki-sam's personal driver. He drives away, leaving Cheol-soo Kim to watch her go. He is furious and indignant. A woman on a pink motorcycle wearing a pink helmet pulls up to him and asks if he is Cheol-soo Kim. He says it's him. The woman introduces herself as an operator who will fully control his work, and her name is Minari. Slashers are an active part of the company's staff who do everything possible to catch zombies. Operators are engaged in weapons, transport, finance, accounting, training, and so on. Minari says she is the newest member of the camera crew. Secretary Park helps Choi-jun get dressed for the party. She says she has a question for her, and Choi-jun asks what the question is. She asks about whether Cheol-soo Kim was not under her control and why he was assigned a different operator. Choi-jun replies that she started out as a cameraman, but managed to get higher, and if before she was responsible for one class C slasher, now she is responsible for 44 different classes of slasher. She adds that Minari is reliable and has the same smell as her. Secretary Park asks what she means when she talks about the smell. She replies that she smells confident. Cheol-soo Kim rides a motorcycle while sitting behind Minari. The largest 5-star hotel in Hyundai is Baekje. People in costumes unfold the purple path and prepare for the event. A lot of cars of different types are coming up. Someone shouted that the class of slashers were lined up. Men in suits lined up on either side of the path, hands clasped behind their backs. The walk includes Kim Ki-sam, a blonde man in white clothes, a man with big muscles, tattoos covering his entire arms and a scar on his eye, a man in a coat, mask, hat with ears and a visor and sunglasses, men with a cigar and an eye patch, and a girl with pigtails wearing glasses and school uniform. Jang Duk-kal classic killer, Big Brother, murders 100,059, a man with tattoos on his arms. He says the Brotherhood is a bunch of scumbags. Ah Chun-sik is an illegal class of slasher. Jijantsu, class 108,027, a masked man with dark glasses who came with a dog. He agrees with Jang Duk-kal and says that anyone who gets in his way will go to feed his dog. Beek Beek Hyan of the Holy Jehovah's Church is a class of slasher. Leader, kills 0, fair man in white. He says that during the event, competitors become partners, so he urges not to swear. He reminds them that they should hate zombies, not each other. Lee Cho-rong, class of slasher, boss girl, K110,119, girl in school uniform and glasses. She asks everyone to be quiet because their breath smells like zombies. Lim is a member of the Special Department of the Ministry of Defense of the Provisional Government, a class of slasher, major, K109,740, a man with an eye patch and a cigar. He tells Lee Jo-rong that she should also keep quiet, because if it wasn't for the zombie, she would be in jail for fraud. Jiggle Kai-da, member of the Small Business Association, slasher class A, fisherman, murders 100,063, an elderly man in a hat and apron. He just grinned. Kim Ki himself notices that there are a bunch of crazy people here and says it will be interesting. The doors open. A man in a suit writes something and notices something and looks around. Cheol-soo Kim and Minari ride their motorcycle up to the red carpet. A man in a suit asks them if they are slashers or VIP customers. Minari says he's a slasher and Na is his manager Minari. The man looks at the list and says that their name is not on the guest list and asks their rating. Cheol-soo Kim starts saying that he doesn't know anything about any ratings. Minari begins to say that he is a slasher class C. The man interrupts them and expresses dissatisfaction with the fact that slashers from the class still appear at social events, and waving his hand says that all invited slasher is not lower than class B. He adds that only VIPs or a class B slasher or higher are allowed to enter, and they have nothing to do here. Choi-jun also appears from behind and asks if he has someone like her as a VIP, and tells him to let them in because they are with her. Cheol-soo Kim is not happy with her appearance. The man in the suit says that he thinks the guests won't like it if there's a Class C slasher at the event and that he doesn't want to mess at their event. She puts her hand on his shoulder and tells him that he is the sole survivor of the 17th Territory Reclamation Operation and that he is a rookie who rose from D to C class overnight. And then she adds that it's also his toy that caught her attention. She also says that the slashers and VIPs inside have probably already heard about him, because she spread the word that she will bring him today and asks that he does not want to upset the guests. Choi-jun tells Minari that if anyone has any questions in the future, they can say they're from her, it always works. Disappointed, Cheol-soo Kim says he hoped he could go home early if they weren't allowed in. Choi-jun scoffs, saying that her dog still thinks she's free. Before she leaves, she reminds him that he will do what she says until he returns the 800 billion. Cheol-soo Kim notices that everyone who plays big is here, and Minari agrees. She says that there are slashers of Class B and above who have more than 30,000 zombies on their account, as well as managers who have put a lot of effort into collecting them all. Then she adds that there are also VIP persons who can use the services of such slashers in the wallet. She explains that now these people are doing business and it's not a small business, it's billions, tens of billions, no less. And all this in South Korea, in a country that after the beginning of the zombie apocalypse has not seen anything but a crisis. Then she adds that this is the only business that can exist in such conditions. Cheol-soo Kim asks why she thinks so. She replies that it is necessary to get used to it and that he should be proud of his success in this field, and adds that it is necessary to develop professional ethics, which will allow you to overlook the dirt that is happening here so as not to throw up. Cheol-soo Kim takes a glass of champagne from the tray and tells her that he is from the Hyundai refugee camp and has a strong stomach. They are approached by a man in an expensive suit who says that he is glad to see them and that he has heard that they owe a tidy sum of money. Getting down to business, he says that there is something that he needs to get. Minari explains that this is the chairman of the board of directors of VF Group, the most influential person among people. Turning to the chairman, she asks what exactly you need to get. He replies that he needs his wife's finger on the lake in the air defense zone in Daegu. He explains that he is trying to sort out his stake, so he needs a picture. He asks what documents need to be issued. He adds that he's pretty sure it's there and tells them to go and get him a pair of fingers. Cheol-soo Kim walks away without answering. He bumps his shoulder into a broad man walking towards him, and the man, recognizing him as the rumored guy, gets angry and grabs him by the collar, yelling at him to watch where he's going. A green-haired guy in a floral shirt with a sinister face approaches the man from behind, puts his hand on his shoulder, and tells him that there is nothing more stupid than starting a fight at a social party. This is a Class B devil slasher. Viper kills 31,207. The man decides to retreat. Devil walks up to Cheol-soo Kim and puts his arm around his neck, telling him that he sees that he has a lot of trouble, and explains what is customary for newcomers there. Then he tells him not to worry, because something will happen soon that will free him from people's attention. A spotlight sheds light on a man with a microphone standing on stage. A man on stage asks if they are tired of having fun, to which Choi-jun retorts that they are working here and not having fun. A man on stage announces that they have decided to hold an auction, which has always been a favorite part of their work. Cheol-soo Kim asks Devil if they play slasher gear here, to which he replies that they play something more interesting here. Bound female zombies enter the stage, gagged and dressed in swimsuits. The auction host announces famous actresses from left to right. Jin Hyung-gi was a famous actress before she became a zombie, next to her idol Miyu, as well as Seo-hee. The host notes that they were difficult to get and announces the starting price of 5 billion. Devil enthusiastically notices that today the lots are interesting and will go for an insane price. Cheol-soo Kim silently moves to the side of the stage, and Devil decides that he's interested and asks if he has any money. Cheol-soo Kim picked up a cleaver from the table. Minari called out to him, but Cheol-soo Kim ignored her as well as the host's objections and went up on stage. He chopped off the heads of the auction zombies with a single swing of the cleaver. Choi-jun choked on her champagne in shock, and Ha Sang-soo smiled approvingly. Kim Kai was surprised himself. The shocked auction host stared at Cheol-soo Kim and dropped the microphone on the floor. The audience stared at the stage in shock, and someone dropped their champagne flutes. Cheol-soo Kim picked up the microphone from the floor and angrily shouted into it if they thought this was normal. He says that just because they're VIPs doesn't give them the right to do such disgusting things, and he doesn't care if they ignore him, calling him a rookie because he's from a C class. Cheol-soo Kim sighed in frustration and said that he thought they were zombie hunters. Devil watched the scenes with a grim face. Cheol-soo Kim continued by saying that they say they are going to make a business out of it, and he asks if they really want to make money this way. He felt insulted. Minari shouted at him to stop, and that everyone was furious. Jang Duk-kal stepped forward and said that if this is what it takes to make a living, then he will do it. He asked Cheol-soo Kim what he would do if he had nothing to eat. Jang Dak-chul is a lucrative business owner and a class slasher, but that's not the right description for him. Jang Dak-hol stands in a striped suit, cutting a red ribbon at the opening of a new building, a lavish celebration of the completion of the JDC building. A man wearing a suit and glasses enters the room where Jang Dak-chul is sitting. It tells you that everything is ready. Jang Dak-chul asks him how much their stock has fallen because of this article. The man replies that 1,200,000,000,000. Jang Dak-chul crumpled the paper in his hand and demanded to know. Overnight, warehouse with cargo containers. Several black cars are parked among the containers. Men in suits open the container doors as Jang Dak-chul approaches. Inside, a man sits tied to a chair with his mouth taped shut and his clothes covered in blood and bruises. The card around his neck says his name is Jin Sang-do and he is a reporter. Jang Dak-chul gives the untie command and the man jerks the ribbon off his mouth. Jin Sang-do immediately starts hurling insults at Jang Dak-chul and says that if he kills the reporter, it won't end quietly. Jang Dak-chul took a chair and sat down across from him. He told him that he would not die, but simply live in a different form. A hypodermic needle flashed in Jang Dak-chul's hand. Jin Sang-do sees the black blood in the syringe and realizes it's zombie blood. He asks him about the fact that his bandit nature hasn't gone away, and notes that as soon as the article came out, Jang Dak-chul had some determination. As Jang Dak-chul pushes the contents of a syringe into Jin Sang-do's neck, Jin Sang-do says that when he becomes a zombie, he will infect him first, like a true patriot, and that he hopes that this will calm him down, even though he was still a thug. Jang Dak-chul turns to the reporter and says that he is not angry with him for being a bandit, but because his article caused his nascent company to lose 1,200,000,000,000 won, and that his revenge will not end with just turning into a zombie. Jang Dak-chul gives the lead command. He launches the reporter's bound wife and young daughter into the container, their mouths taped shut, tears streaming from their eyes, and they are terrified. Jin Sang-do is terrified. Jang Dak-chul says Jin Sang-do will have dinner with his family. Jin Sang-do asks to kill him before he transforms. The men push the reporter's family in his direction and leave the container. As the door closes, Jang Dak-chul tells him that he is ungrateful. He tells his subordinates to open the container in the morning, take photos and send them to the newspaper, tell them that the same thing will happen to them if their article does not return him to the previous stock price. Jang Dak-chul approaches the stage where Cheol Soo-kim is standing. He is followed by Devil and a group of other men. Minari tries to calm Jang Dak-chul down, but he ignores her and throws her into the wall with a single slap. Jang Dak-chul approaches Cheol Soo-kim and asks how he will pay if he goes too far. Cheol Soo-kim tells him that his business stinks like a severed head, and asks if that means he's not much different from a zombie. Then he adds that he will cut it into pieces. Cheol Soo-kim swings the cleaver at him, but he catches it by the blade with 2 fingers. Jang Dak-chul tells him that he looks like a dog with his nonsense, and breaks the blade of the cleaver with 2 fingers into fragments. He adds that he will be beaten like a dog. Jang Dak-chul attacks Cheol Soo-kim with his fist, and he blocks the blow, but the force of the blow is so great that his bones break. Cheol Soo-kim jumps back, but Jang Dak-chul kicks him in the jaw, knocking him unconscious. Jang Dak-chul asks for the bill. The bespectacled man calculates the damage that Cheol Soo-kim has caused, 3 heads, estimated at approximately 12 billion, the destruction of today's event at approximately 50 billion, and about 50 million for disturbing the peace of Jang Dak-chul, totaling 62 billion and 50 million. Jang Dak-chul notices that his shoe is torn and realizes that it was Cheol Soo-kim who bit it off. The bespectacled man sums up the total amount, 62,051,200,000 won. Jang Dak-chul says that 12,051,200,000 won has been received from him. Then he adds that 50 billion for dying a shameful death by pushing his mouth apart with his hands. He says that if you set an example of murder, you will be repaid in kind. Jang Dak-chul notices the fishing line around his neck. He asks Kim Ki-sam what he's doing and if he's heard the score. "It's not my style," Kim Ji-sam replies with a grin. Choi Jun turns to Jang Dak-chul and asks if he has 800 billion. She knows very well that Jang Dak-chul kills and saves by the count. Jang Dak-chul doesn't understand what she's talking about. He prepares to rip out Cheol Soo-kim's mouth, but Choi Jun says that Jang Dak-chul owes her 800 billion and offers to give her Cheol Soo-kim instead of the debt.